you're right. You should think this over. This is a big decision. Just so I have clarity on what you want to think over, could you just be a little bit more clear with me? Could it be, is it the product? Is it me as a person? Is it my company possibly? Or, could it be the price? Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Hope your Taco Tuesday yesterday went super well. Today, I am here again for another high ticket tune-up, and I'm going to keep coming at you with all the goods that you need to win the game when it comes to the conversion mechanism in your business. So today's question is from Brian B. Brian B says, Sean, what do I say when they tell me, hey, I want to think it over? And this is such a common question that we get all of the time. And by the way, if you've had this question before, drop a comment below. If you've ever been stumped, write yes in the comments, because I know there's so many people out there that get stumped on this one. And really, it's such a super easy way there's such a super easy way to overcome this. And I want to give you a few tips and a few tricks here in the next few minutes for today's high ticket tune-up. So the first thing that I'll suggest is, if you find yourself getting this question often, the first thing that I'll tell you is that during the earlier part of the sales conversation, we need to make a few tweaks and a few changes. What are those changes and those tweaks? We need to get to a level of emotional impact through pain discovery to where they feel like, oh, this is really something that I need to solve. Because as you grow with the level of pain and frustration with a problem that your prospect has, they're going to want to think it over less and less and less. The more pain that you can grow in the discovery conversation, the more likely you'll have less resistance of them wanting to think over at the end of the call. So more pain, more dollars, depending on the high ticket that you sell. If it's a very high ticket thing, you're going to need to spend quite a bit more time in the pain segment, because really our focus is being the guide in the journey and solving the issue, right? The best sales professionals I know will typically solve one, maybe two, possibly three big problems for a client right when they first start talking with them. But then after that, really, it just comes down to staying focused and being clear. So when somebody comes at you and says, hey, I want to think it over, the first immediate response that I use if I'm in that place and that maybe I didn't do the best job in getting the pain out in the conversation is I'm going to say something like, you know what, you're right. You should think this over. This is a really big decision. And I don't stop there. So that's the first part. So that's kind of what I would call a softening statement. In professional sales, I say that's a softening statement. So when somebody says, hey, I want to think it over, the immediate response, automatic, should be, hey, you're right. You probably should think this over. This is a big decision for you. And again, remembering this is we're working to solve this one problem. And just so I can get clarity. So here's the second part of it. So do a little softening statement like I just shared. And then the second part is to say, just so I can get clarity on this, which part do you want to think over? And then I'm gaining clarity on what they want to think over. Typically, I'll give them the triplicate of choice, or they might call it the Chinese menu. When you go to a Chinese restaurant, you can eat fish or chicken or duck or poultry or beef or whatever, right? And so, again, softening statement, you're right. You should think this over. This is a big decision. Just so I have clarity on what you want to think over, could you just be a little bit more clear with me? Could it be, is it the product? Is it me as a person? Is it my company possibly? Or, could it be the price? Right? And then all of a sudden, as you're asking these questions, what you're going to find is people are going to say, oh, yeah, well, it's actually this. And whatever they say is the total right answer. And typically in that part of the conversation, what I'm going to do is when that comes out, I will turn back and I'll say, I didn't see that one coming. Tell me more about that. And I dive right back into a pain conversation to understand why that's a problem for them, how long it's been going on, what have they tried to do to solve that, how did that work, how much did it cost them, how do they feel about it, are they still trying to solve it, did they solve it, but why was that actually a problem, why is that the thing they want to think over? Typically, when you go through that cycle once, maybe twice in a phone call, you'll actually close the deal on the phone call before they want to go think it over. So that is a really good piece. Now, the second part that I mentioned in the comments was literally, so you agree with them, You get clarity on what they want to think over. And then the most important part is figure out how long it's going to take for them to actually think it over. Because sometimes they're going to say, hey, yeah, I need to really think this over, whatever they're going to say. It's fine. It's a smoke screen. So you say, great, you should think this over. And just so I can have clarity, what's the thing that you're trying to think over? Is it this, or this? And by the way, so let them answer that and then dive into pain and then come back. If you're still at that place where they don't want to move forward and they're hesitant, say, yeah, hey, I know you wanted to keep thinking this over, but just let me ask, how long do you usually need to think things over like this? Is it a day? Is it 2 days? Is it 3 days? Is it a week? How much time do you need? Oh, I need a week. Okay, I understand. So just so we're clear, you mentioned you needed to think over this part and this part. It's going to take you roughly 2 to 4 days to do that. So grab your calendar. Let's set a next time to talk. And so I want to make sure that you have full clarity and we can get through those speed bumps and make sure this is a good fit for you. So does X time on next Friday work for you? And then what happens is now you've had the ability to hear the response, hey, I want to think it over, because it's just usually a smokescreen. You've gotten clarity on which part of your offer or product they want to think over. You have a timeline on how long they typically take to think things over. And then now you've set a clear future on the next time that you're going to talk to cover the areas that they wanted to think over. And typically at that point in the conversation, if you get to a place where they say, no, I'm not really ready, or let me leave the ball in my court, I'll get back to you. That's just usually a soft way of saying, no, I'm not interested. And if you get that, typically what I'd recommend is just say, hey, before we even keep going any further, I don't want to waste your time and I know you don't want to waste mine. Should we just close the file? Is it just not a fit? So don't be afraid as a professional salesperson to do the takeaway move, because I think that's a really powerful one as well. So there's a couple of things that you can try. What I would suggest in just listening to this today is just pick one thing and use that, try that, see if you can gain clarity on just the one piece they're trying to think over. That's a big win. Or just if you don't want to go down that path yet, maybe figure out hey, how long does it take for you to usually think things over? And then from there, set up another next clear future call with them. So those are two ways to handle when they say, hey, I want to think it over. So Brian, I hope that helps. And guys, go fight, win.